Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is Curvi Yogi. I am Jakita, and this is going to be a part 2 to my first review for When They See Us. I felt like the first review I just kind of went off on an emotional rant because of the nature of this film or this film series, and I got into a little bit of the details, but I kind of wanted to talk about more of the mental health effects of the Exonerated Five. So of course we're talking about Kevin Richardson, Yusef Salaam, Antron, McCray, Korey Wise, and Raymond Santana. And we all know that they spent from 7 to 13 years in prison, and they can't get those years back. Korey spent the most time, which was I think 13 years, around that amount of time, and the others I think spent 7 to 10 years, maybe 7 to 10, 7 to 9, and they all spent time, but I think Korey's time was a little more eventful. He spent the most time in prison, and he spent actually all of his time in prison. The other 4 they went to juvie first, and they basically were all kind of together for a longer period of time, and so they were able to have each other while they were serving their sentences. But Korey was alone. He went straight to Rikers Island and basically had to fight for himself. This is a 16-year-old kid who probably knows how to fight, but just not grown men. So I think that's one thing that's just going to continue to weigh on them for the rest of their lives. Just that experience of being in prison with adults and just being treated like shit, because they were in there for raping someone, which is something that even the inmates just did not approve of. Apparently that's the worst thing that you could do. And then going back to the fact that they all had to come back into society and figure out how to live after being in jail for so long or prison for so long, that's another thing that would just stress you out, because now you have a record, and of course we all know that once you have a record, it's hard for you to get a job. It's hard for you to get a job. You don't have any money. If you don't have any money, what can you do? You're basically just staying with the people around you and not contributing, so you don't feel like a contributing member of society. So I can't imagine how that feels. And then Raymond actually went back to jail because he couldn't find a job. He started selling drugs. I mean, can you fault him? No, because if you have no other way to make money, what can you turn to? And I really don't want to hear somebody trying to come back and say you can find a job. No. When you come out of jail or you come from prison and you have a record, almost everyone's going to look at you sideways like, no, you can't work here. So it's not like they have too many transition programs out here that actually help inmates or help ex-cons get jobs. So that whole thing with him going back to jail, honestly, I didn't see a whole lot wrong with that. Like, the man was trying to make money for himself. He doesn't have anything. And then we'll talk about Antron and the relationship he had with his father. You know, his father was the one who served time before and was basically threatened, I guess, by the police. I'm not sure how true that story is, but he basically told his son to say what they wanted him to say. And that ultimately led to him serving time for a crime he didn't commit. And so of course, who faults Antron for feeling the way that he does? Because I think I would have felt the same way if my father came and told me to say something that I didn't do and then I ended up paying for it. No, he's not going to forgive him. And so that's a whole nother process in itself that he's going to have to deal with. And I think his father passed away not too long ago, and so he never really forgave him before then. And it's just a lot to deal with. I can see why he wouldn't forgive him. And even though his father was sick, I can't say that he should have forgave him. I can't say that. I won't say that, because that's a lot to deal with when your father was basically part of the cause of you going to jail or going to prison. And he still deals with, or he's still dealing with the whole situation. It's still not something that he's used to. And even though he has a wife and kids, I think those are the only people that he trusts. And I think he said that his wife, I said this in the other video, but his wife is trying to get him to go to therapy. And of course, we know therapy is something that can help. But if you've had your own words used against you, I find it very hard for you to want to go to a therapist and trust that they are not going to do the same thing to you. So although I'm rooting for him to go to therapy, and I'm hoping that one day he'll get the courage to do so, I don't fault him. I just think that he has to take his time on that, and he has to build the trust that he needs to trust someone else with helping him. And that's it. That's all to it. And then Yusef, I'm not sure. I don't know how that relationship between Yusef and Korey is. I don't know if Yusef is truly, if he is truly holding on to the fact that his friend came down there and his friend got the worst of the whole deal. The whole thing just fell down on Korey. I don't know how Korey feels that he went down there. I know he said that, sometimes he regrets it, sometimes he doesn't. That was his friend. And you can tell Korey was down for his friend. And that's fine. I think that's something that he can't beat himself up about. It's just, the situation was just not going to go in any of their favors. It just didn't work out that way. But I think Yusef is probably one that has to live with that choice, or that he didn't make the choice, but he knows that his friend only came out there to help him or to be in support of him, and then ended up being convicted of this crime that he didn't even do. So that's another aspect of it that will weigh on him, I'm pretty sure, for the rest of his life. And Kevin had a lot of support from his family, but it was just, that's another thing. I know that he'd probably feel that, his sister helped him, but that's something that his sister had to deal with, that she signed that paper for his confession and it wasn't true. But everybody in the situation, not only them, just kind of wanted to take care of their family member and get them home. And so they did what they had to do to get them home. But I don't know, it's hard to deal with when you look back and you see how your family had a part in your conviction, and it's not directly, it's indirectly. So how do you deal with it? How did they deal with it? I'm not sure, but these are just things that I think that they look back on from time to time and just think, how or what were we thinking? And finally, Korey, who is just a ball of positive energy, I think you can see that by his mannerisms and everything that he does now that he's out and free. But this man had to deal with going to Rikers Island at 16 and just being pushed around the system, trying to get transferred so he can be close to his mom. His mom didn't have a lot to go and visit him. And it was a lot for both of them to deal with, I'm sure. But basically, Korey was the only one who didn't have anyone. His mom couldn't come visit. She couldn't afford it. She could barely afford to give him anything on his books. And I don't know, these 5 men are strong, very strong, and I don't know how they're all miracles, walking miracles, especially Korey being stabbed and just beaten so many times, beaten till they told him that he probably wouldn't even make it. The whole situation is just messed up. And then we learn in the Ken Burns documentary that Korey had a hearing problem, like a slight hearing problem. So I think that has something to do with him and the way he processed things as well, the way he heard instructions and maybe processed how he was supposed to do things. And I'm not sure about this, but I think he had a learning disability, and that also played a part in it. But either way, detectives took advantage of all of these things, or either they didn't even care to figure out if there was anything wrong. They took advantage of all the minors, made them sign these confessions that they didn't even write, and use it against them. And also for Korey, when he was in solitary confinement for so long, like, you can't imagine how in the world he's functioning in society after being locked away by himself for so long. You know, basically being in a cell for 23 hours a day, or however long they even let them stay in there. It's just, that's not good on it. We're meant to be social beings, and him being without human interaction, human touch for a long periods of time, I know that had to take a toll on him. So that's kind of it. I just kind of wanted to go into a little bit more detail of the things that they probably have to deal with as they continue to rebuild their lives. That no amount of money can bring back the time that they lost. And even though the charges are dropped, they don't have anything on their record, they can't get those years back. And I think there was one other line in the film that kind of got me as well, was when I think it was Kevin who said, "Why are they doing us like this?" And then Raymond was like, "What other way do they ever do us?" or something like that. And I'm just like, these are the same things that are happening now. Nothing much has really changed. And even in the interviews that they had, especially the one with Oprah, I think Kevin said the same thing. It's interesting that nothing has changed. And they've been gone for so long, and now they're out with kids and families, and it's still the same thing happening. So I think that's it. I wanted to kind of elaborate more on what I wanted to say in the first video, but I didn't get it out because emotions are high. Emotions are high now, but I'm trying to get this out there and done just to start the conversation. So I would love to hear what everyone thinks about this series. Let me know if you've seen the documentary, the Ken Burns documentary, which I think right now is on Amazon Prime, if you have Prime. Not sure where else you can find it, or if you can buy it from somewhere else, but definitely watch it if you can. Let me know what you think, your thoughts on it, what other things did you take away from it, if you even made it through, because I know a lot of people still have not watched it, and I think that's okay. We just know that we feel it in our bodies that this is not good for us to watch. We need to watch it, but physically it's just going to make us sick. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon in my next videos.